I know the world moves fast. You're probably scrolling through, half distracted, with 100 reasons not to stay. But if you've made it this far, thank you. Even just for a few seconds. That means more than you know. I don't tell this story because I want pity. I tell it because silence only protects the ones who hurt you. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to know they're not crazy. That they were seen. That they were never the problem. I was silent for a long time. But today I speak, not with anger, but with memory. If you feel something, even the smallest ache, leave behind a whisper, a soft tap on the like button. Let me know someone's still listening. It happened at my sister Madison's engagement party. There were candles floating in glass bowls, white roses laced across the archway, and a string quartet playing something delicate and expensive sounding. My parents were all smiles, of course, the perfect hosts in their custom-tailored perfection. I sat near the back, wheelchair tucked behind a decorative plant. Plastic champagne glass filled with sparkling cider because we didn't want to risk you spilling. Then Dad raised his glass. "To our beautiful daughter," he said, locking eyes with Madison. "Our one and only miracle. We couldn't be prouder of the woman you've become." The room erupted in claps. I sat perfectly still. Not a flinch, not a word. Even when my mother added, "We always knew you'd be the one to carry on our family's name. Their only child. The one to carry on." I glanced down at my lap. Hands still, jaw tight. I didn't need to cry. They'd trained me out of that years ago. That's when I saw him. An old man, maybe in his 70s, standing near the exit. Gray suit, leather satchel. I didn't recognize him. Not a family friend. Not one of Madison's corporate entourage. He walked toward me slowly and leaned down. "This is for you," he said, sliding a small envelope into my hand. "Mark Whitman, your uncle." I blinked. I didn't have an Uncle Mark, or so I thought. But that envelope? It would become the first crack in everything they'd built. The start of something I didn't even know I had left. The truth. I didn't open the envelope that night. Instead, I wheeled myself into the corner of the garden after the toast, watching the glow of fairy lights tangled above a manicured hedge. I could still hear Madison laughing, clinking glasses with Dad's business partners like she'd trained for this her whole life. Me? I'd trained for silence. Even before the accident, I had been the echo in our house, the one they acknowledged only when convenient. Like when they needed a designated photographer or someone to fill the awkward silence at family brunch. When I was 9, I painted a galaxy for the school art show. I'd spent 3 days layering the colors. Deep indigo, streaks of silver, planets made from sponge prints. I remember Mom's reaction when she saw it drying in the kitchen. "Honey," she said, fake smile plastered on. "Next time, try painting something people actually want to hang in their house." She replaced it with one of Madison's pastel flower sketches, said it matched the curtains better. When I was 13, Dad gave Madison a bracelet for her birthday. A real one, white gold, tiny diamonds. I got a card, not even signed, just Dad. I asked once, jokingly, if he'd forgotten. He laughed. "Well, you're not really the jewelry type, are you?" Then came the day I got accepted into the state science fair. My project on solar-powered desalination units was selected for regionals. They didn't come. Said it was the same weekend as Madison's dance showcase. You understand, right? Of course, I always did. Even the accident couldn't earn me a place in their spotlight. It had happened 8 months ago. A rainy night, a winding road, and a misunderstanding about who was driving. The police report listed me as the driver. That was what Madison told them. I didn't remember much. Just glass, a scream, the smell of burnt rubber. By the time I woke up in the hospital, the story had already been written. They never questioned it. They never asked. And when I came home with a wheelchair and a list of specialists, Mom said, We'll try to accommodate your situation, but please don't make this your whole identity. My identity? I didn't even know what that meant anymore. That night, I sat in my room, the envelope from Uncle Mark still unopened on my lap, and for the first time in years, I let myself ask, what if the truth didn't die in that crash? What if it was buried? It started with little things. Small, almost laughable. Like the college counselor calling to confirm I'd withdrawn my application to Stanford, even though I never had. Or the mail. Certain letters never arriving. Others showing up torn open. Then came the scholarship check that bounced, though I'd seen the award letter myself just 2 weeks prior. Probably a clerical error, Dad had said, patting my shoulder without looking up from his laptop. His tone had the weight of finality, like he was tired of my confusion. I wanted to believe him. God, I really did. But then Mrs. Hargrave, our next-door neighbor for nearly 15 years, stopped me at the mailbox one afternoon. She looked at my chair, then my face, and hesitated. "You know," she said softly, glancing toward our house. "I saw your sister driving that night, around 10:30. She was going way too fast. I remember thinking, someone's going to get hurt." I blinked. "You're sure it was Madison?" She nodded, expression conflicted. "Convertible, her red coat. I know what I saw." Her words clanged in my chest like church bells, because the police report said I was driving, because Madison had told them I insisted on taking the wheel, because that lie had cost me the last 8 months of my life. I wheeled back inside, the air around me suddenly thick. That night, when everyone was asleep, I finally opened the envelope. Inside was a small flash drive and a note on cream stationery in tidy cursive. "If you're reading this, they've already started erasing you. You don't know me, but I'm your Uncle Mark. I was your mother's brother. I stayed away. Her choice, not mine. But your grandfather never forgot you, and neither did I. Play the recordings. There's more buried than you know." My hands trembled as I plugged the flash drive into my old laptop. There were 6 audio files, all labeled by dates. I clicked the first one. Grandpa's voice crackled through the speakers. "I'm updating this because my son-in-law's behavior worries me. He's been pushing Diane to amend the will. Says Emma isn't stable enough anymore. But I've seen the way she lights up when she talks about her desalination project. That girl has fire. She has vision. I won't let them cut her out." My breath caught. The next file was dated 3 months later. This time, Grandpa sounded tired, but determined. "If anything happens, this flash drive goes to Emma. She deserves to know that she is not forgotten. She is the best of us." That night, I sat in the dark, letting his words wash over me. Someone had seen me. Truly seen me. And suddenly, the puzzle pieces weren't scattered anymore. They were falling into place. I didn't sleep that night, not even a minute. I just kept replaying Grandpa's voice, the way it cracked on my name, the steady belief threaded into every sentence. He hadn't just remembered me, he had fought for me. And they buried it. Mom, Dad, even Madison. I opened the rest of the files. Each one confirmed what I was beginning to fear. In one, Grandpa detailed his intentions. Emma will receive the Portland house, the trust fund for education, and the foundation shares. In another, he mentioned his declining health, a note of urgency. "They're circling. Diane says I should streamline the will. That's code for cut Emma out." But the last file, dated just 2 weeks before he passed, that one broke something open in me. They told me Emma doesn't care about the family anymore, that she refused to visit. But I know my granddaughter. That girl used to write me letters every Sunday. Now she doesn't respond at all? That's not Emma. That's them keeping her away. I dropped the laptop, literally dropped it. Because he was right. I had sent letters, emails, even asked Mom once, Did Grandpa get my thank you card? She waved it off. He's old, honey. Probably lost it. They never gave them to him. They wanted me gone, so they rewrote the story until it looked like I'd walked out on my own. The next morning, I called the number on the notepad Uncle Mark had slipped into the envelope. He answered on the second ring. Emma? He said, voice gravelly, unsure. This is Mark. We met the next day at a diner on the outskirts of town. He looked like Grandpa. Same tired eyes, same kind posture. He brought a folder. Inside, a scanned copy of Grandpa's original will, a notarized amendment naming me as primary beneficiary, a signed letter stating that he feared it would be contested or destroyed. I stared at the documents like they were radioactive. He wanted you protected, Uncle Mark said, quietly. But your parents? They got to the estate lawyer first, claimed you didn't want anything to do with the family. They filed a mental incapacity clause, said you weren't fit to inherit. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just nodded once. That was the moment it changed. Not all at once, but enough. I wasn't broken. I had been erased. But I was still here. And now, I had proof. The memorial was held at a private hall near the edge of town. Oak beams, stained glass windows, strings playing something slow and melancholy. I wasn't invited. But I came anyway. Uncle Mark walked beside me as I rolled through the front entrance. People turned. Conversations froze mid-sentence. The orchestra trailed off like it had forgotten its place in the sheet music. Madison was at the podium, reading a heartfelt tribute. He loved us all, she said, eyes glistening. Even those who drifted away. Her voice caught when she saw me, and for just a second, she faltered. My parents were seated in the front row, their faces polished into polite grief. Dad's arm curled around Mom's shoulder, not out of affection, but image. I didn't speak, didn't wave, didn't smile. I wheeled past them, slowly, and placed a single yellow tulip at the base of Grandpa's portrait. Then I turned and sat in the second row, just close enough to see their expressions tighten. Madison resumed her speech, but the rhythm was off now. Her charm cracked in the corners. Uncle Mark whispered, "Ready?" I nodded. At the reception that followed, everyone gathered in the courtyard. Crystal platters of finger food, soft jazz. Laughter bubbled up as if grief had a timer. Then the lawyer, Mr. Eckhart, stepped up onto the small makeshift stage. He tapped his wine glass. "There is one final request Mr. Whitman asked to be fulfilled here," he said. "A message for his family, in his own words." A screen flickered on. The room stilled. Grandpa's face appeared, older, worn, but unmistakably sharp. "If you're watching this," he said, "then I've passed on. And I imagine there's been confusion, maybe even disappointment, about my will." Murmurs rose like startled bees. "I loved you all," Grandpa continued. "But love doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean erasure. It means truth. And truth means Emma." He looked directly at the camera, like he was looking straight at me. "She was the only one who visited without needing something. The only one who listened when I spoke, who asked me how I really felt." He pulled out a folder. "This," he said, "is the original copy of my will, not the one that was edited behind my back." Gasps. "I leave the Portland house, the education trust, and 80% of the foundation shares to my granddaughter, Emma Whitman." The screen went black. Silence crashed into the room like thunder. I didn't flinch. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, breathing. Madison's champagne flute hit the floor and shattered. Mom's face turned sheet white. Dad looked like he might lunge at the lawyer. But it was done. It was recorded. It was legal. All the years they tried to shrink me down, silence me, make me believe I was unworthy, undone. With one voice. His voice. The fallout was immediate. My father marched toward Mr. Eckhart, voice shaking, demanding clarification. My mother followed, her heels clacking like war drums. "I'm sorry," the lawyer said calmly. "But the documents have already been filed. The inheritance is no longer under your names." Then he turned to me. "Emma," he said, in front of everyone, "we'll schedule a time to go over the transfer of ownership." That one sentence, so mundane, so procedural, it cut deeper than any scream, because it meant it was real. I wasn't a placeholder anymore. I was recognized. My mother spun on her heel. "Emma, don't do this," she hissed. "This isn't who we are." I looked up at her, face calm. "Then who are we, Mom? Because I don't think I ever got to know?" She blinked, startled, not by the question, but by the way I asked it. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't begging. I was just done. Madison burst forward next. "This is insane!" she cried. "You nearly died in that crash. I was there. I tried to help you." "No," I said quietly. "You left." Her jaw tensed. "You were the one who wanted to drive." I stared straight at her. "So why did the neighbors see you behind the wheel?" She went pale. Mr. Eckhart stepped in. "There's also evidence," he said evenly, "of significant manipulation. Certain documents submitted to contest Emma's inheritance contained forged statements, all traceable." Madison's voice cracked. "You're just trying to ruin us." I shook my head. "No, Maddie. You did that yourself. I'm just not letting you pretend anymore." From the back, someone coughed, a rustle of uncomfortable shuffling. A few guests turned to leave. The illusion was fracturing. And then came Uncle Mark. He stepped beside me and placed a hand on my shoulder. "Your grandfather believed in truth," he said to the room, "even when it was ugly, even when it hurt." My father tried one last time. "This is betrayal." Uncle Mark's voice was steady. "Number this is accountability." No one clapped, no one cheered, but the silence that followed, that was mine, and it was louder than anything they'd ever allowed me to say. They didn't come home that night. I stayed in Grandpa's house, my house now, and sat at his old kitchen table, tracing the lines in the wood grain he used to run his fingers across while telling stories about the war, or how gas used to cost a nickel. The place felt heavy, not haunted, just filled with ghosts that hadn't left yet. The next morning, I found a voicemail from Mom. Just 5 words. "You don't know the full story. No apology, no remorse, just a breadcrumb, a last attempt at control." I deleted it. A week passed. Then 2. They didn't call again. Instead, a letter arrived. Madison's handwriting, messy like it always was when she was emotional. "I didn't mean to lie. I just thought you'd already given up. Mom and Dad said you didn't want to come to the hospital, that you were too ashamed. I didn't know they were hiding your letters." She ended with a single line. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just didn't want to leave it unsaid." I read it once, folded it back, didn't reply. Not because I hated her, because I didn't trust myself yet, not to unravel at the edges if I opened that door too soon. Uncle Mark stopped by later that week with takeout and files from the foundation. "You're going to need to review these," he said, setting down a thick folder. "It's yours now." I nodded. There was no pride in it, no thrill, just wait. And strangely, a quiet kind of peace. Later that night, as I unpacked boxes from the attic, I found my old science notebook, the one they called a phase. Its pages were yellowed, but the ink was still sharp. Diagrams of water filters, rough blueprints for a low-cost desalination unit, ideas scribbled in the margins. I ran my hand over the cover. "This," I whispered, "was never just a hobby." Grandpa had known, and somehow that was enough. I didn't need to see them again, not to scream, not to ask why, and definitely not to hear sorry. The healing didn't come in one sweeping moment. It came in the quiet, in mornings spent refurbishing Grandpa's workshop, in afternoons researching nonprofits and federal grants, in evenings drafting a proposal for something new, something I would have loved to have when I was 16 and invisible. I called it the Whitman Lab, a hybrid mentorship and innovation center for teens with disabilities, especially those interested in STEM. Not just a charity, a launchpad. The house transformed with it. Grandpa's den became the main office. His sunroom, the one where he used to read mystery novels, was converted into a glass-walled design lab. We kept the window seat. Everyone needs a place to think. On the front door, I mounted a brass plaque. Legacy isn't given. It's chosen. People came, kids, parents, volunteers, donors. Some asked about my family. I never told the full story, just said, we grew apart. It wasn't bitterness, it was boundary. Because the truth is, I didn't need them to understand anymore. I didn't even need them to notice. I just needed to exist on my own terms. One evening, I stood by the front porch, watching a group of students laugh over a solar rover that refused to go straight. Their joy was real, their energy, electric. And that's when I finally said it, out loud, to no one in particular. I don't need to be loved by people who only saw me when I was silent. The wind shifted, not a storm, not a chill. Just the soft breeze of something new beginning. Fall melted into winter. The lab gained momentum. We secured a small grant from the city. A local tech company donated tablets. A retired engineer offered to run weekly workshops on robotics. Word spread. Not fast, but real. One afternoon, a boy named Liam rolled into the lab. 12 years old, sharp as a needle, and quiet like I used to be. He had cerebral palsy and eyes that flicked everywhere, except at people. He didn't talk much, just hovered by the 3D printer, watching it whir and hum. The second week, I found a diagram he'd left on the table, a prosthetic arm designed to hold a paintbrush. Detailed, precise. I called him over. You made this? He hesitated, then nodded. It's brilliant, I said. He shrugged. No one really listens when I explain it. I smiled. Then you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Something shifted in his posture. That evening, I sat on the porch with a mug of mint tea and Grandpa's old flannel jacket wrapped around my shoulders. The one I used to steal when I was a kid. The one that still smelled like cedar and home. I looked out over the yard, where a small plaque now stood beneath the oak tree. In memory of Benjamin Whitman. He didn't leave me money. He left me space to be. I had it engraved last week. Uncle Mark cried when he saw it. Inside, I kept my old science notebook in the display case near the entrance. Not for me. For the kids who walked in thinking they were just too weird or too small or too invisible. Legacy isn't in trophies. It's in transmission. From pain to purpose. From silence to spark. From being erased to becoming the author. Spring came slowly. The kind of spring that didn't announce itself with fireworks, but with soft signals. Thawed soil, bird songs before dawn, a breeze that no longer bit at your ears. One morning, I woke early, not because of nightmares, not because of pain, just because. I walked with braces now, but still, through the dew-soaked grass toward the garden behind the lab. Grandpa had once tried to grow tomatoes there and failed miserably. I'd planted yellow tulips instead. They were blooming, bright, fierce, like little suns rising from the earth. I knelt down, brushing my fingers along one of the petals. It reminded me of something he used to say when I was 8 and feeling small. Joy comes and goes, Em. But hope is something you plant. Behind me, I heard laughter from inside, Liam and two other kids arguing over whether a drone could carry a sandwich. And in that moment, under the pale gold light of morning, I felt it. Not victory, not revenge, just peace. Because I didn't win against them. I didn't need to. I chose me. I chose truth. And truth, though messy, though lonely, had led me home. I looked up at the sky, breathed in the scent of tulips and wet earth, and whispered, "You didn't destroy me. You made space for who I really was." And I knew, in every part of me, this wasn't the end. It was where I begin again. Some relationships are roots, others are weights. He didn't leave me money. He left me space to be. This story isn't about inheritance. It's about recognition, about reclaiming a voice after being deliberately silenced. It reminds us that sometimes the deepest betrayal doesn't come from strangers, but from those who were supposed to protect us. And yet, healing doesn't require revenge. It requires truth, boundaries, and the courage to build something new from what was broken. To anyone who's ever been made to feel invisible, you are not the absence. You are the spark. See you again.